With morality on the line, Alabama has rejected a man accused of sexual misconduct against 9 women decades ago. In the end, the Alabama Senate race wasn't about Republicans or Democrats. It was about Roy Moore. It's a surprise pushback against deeply partisan U.S. politics in which people tend to vote for their party no matter what. It appears that in this case many Republicans elected to stay home and not vote at all. A large voter turnout, particularly high for a special election, propelled Democrat Doug Jones to victory. And African American voters in the Black Belt of the state were key in turning the seat blue. Mr. Moore, the so-called firebrand politician who was anti-abortion, anti-homosexual, anti-Muslim and anti-immigration, was twice removed as Chief Justice of the Alabama Supreme Court after he refused to uphold the law due to his religious beliefs. First, he refused to remove a Ten Commandments plaque from the court. Then, he refused to acknowledge the legality of same-sex marriage. But now voters in the deeply conservative state of Alabama have chosen a Democrat for the first time since 1992. It is a crushing defeat for President Donald Trump, who offered a full-throated endorsement of Roy Moore in the dying days of the campaign, even cutting aerobical for the embattled candidate. It's also a blow for the president's former chief strategist Steve Bannon, who had campaigned aggressively for Roy Moore on multiple occasions. It is an ethical victory for the so-called Washington establishment, but practically, it will make the president and the Republican Party's job of passing legislation more difficult, cutting the slender Republican majority in the Senate to just 1. Despite being a Democrat in a Republican state, Doug Jones has avoided embracing figures from the progressive wing of the Democratic Party. He focused his campaign on local issues, including his successful prosecution of 2 former Ku Klux Klan members who bombed a black church and killed 4 young girls. Mr. Jones can also thank moderate Republicans who could stomach Roy Moore for his election. However, while the result will be chalked up as a loss for the Trump White House, it's not a complete surprise. And Democrats will say they have the momentum after a decisive victory in the race for governor in the state of Virginia last month. Yet, it's highly likely a less controversial Republican candidate would have been able to dispense of Mr. Jones easily. The president refused to be drawn specifically on the allegations that Roy Moore faced, opting to leave it up to the voters of Alabama to decide. The people of Alabama will do the right thing, Mr. Trump wrote on Twitter. In electing a man who does face a litany of sexual assault allegations, they've made their choice.